Dean Nohria, it is my honor to present to you the graduates of the class of 2014.
The class of 2014, friends and family, members of the Harvard Business School community, good afternoon and welcome. One of the hazards of being dean is that a few days before graduation, you become a totally keen weather watcher. So all I've been doing for this whole week is watch the weather. And you can imagine my horror on Tuesday evening when I learned that there was going to be flash floods. Kid you not, that was the weather forecast on Tuesday evening. On Wednesday, we learned that we were going to have the coldest day that Boston has ever seen in May. But every graduating class has some quality that distinguishes it. And so we should not be surprised that this is what we expected from the class of 2014. Because when they arrived on our campus in 2012, just a few weeks later, it was Hurricane Sandy. A month later, we had a campus-wide power outage. In February of 2013, we had Blizzard Nemo, mountains of snow all over this campus. And as if that was not enough, later that year, we experienced a flood in a residence hall and fire in the SFB apartments. We lived through the Boston Marathon bombings and the lockdown and manhunt that followed. You shared a deep sadness over the victims, including the daughter of a Harvard Business School staff member. Through it all, the class of 2014 exhibited patience and grace. You thought of others above yourselves. It is this compassion that will always mark the class of 2014. And we at Harvard Business School are grateful for how you chose to shine in the face of this adversity. So it's only fitting that as we gather for commencement today, you have the most beautiful day ever. We hope you graduate today with a rich set of memories of cases and cold calls you nailed, field experiences you enjoyed, friends you laughed or cried with. Today, as you leave your campus, I would like to offer a last set of thoughts that I hope you will remember. From Casey Gerald's remarkable speech yesterday, I know that you already know the 4 Ps, the 5 forces, and 6 Sigma. But I'm going to keep it simpler. I'm going to talk to you today about the 3 Ts: truth, trust, and thankfulness. On the diploma you will receive today, you will find a seal with the motto of Harvard University, which reads Veritas, the Latin word for truth. In Roman mythology, Veritas is the goddess of truth, the daughter of Saturn and the mother of virtue. Legend has it that Veritas hid in the bottom of a holy well, which is what makes truth so elusive. You've learned that yourself as you have searched for the truth in the nearly 500 cases you've studied. You have learned to test these truths in your case discussions that very often lead you to reconsider the positions you held true when you walked into the classroom. This magical process of forcing you to defend your positions and at times watching them crumble in the face of questions you hadn't considered is the real power of the pedagogy that makes Harvard Business School such a special place. I hope it has taught you to keep asking hard questions, considering new perspectives, listening to the views of others, and searching for the underlying truth in whatever challenges you may face. Another sense in which you must doggedly pursue the truth is to be true to yourself, which includes finding the path in your life that helps you realize your highest purpose. This too can be elusive, as I have experienced in my own life. As a student in India, I studied chemical engineering. I was okay at it, but the truth was that I was never going to be great at it, and I realized it would never be my calling. When I came to MIT as a graduate student, I began working on a PhD in finance. At the time, MIT's finance professors were winning Nobel Prizes, and I truly felt fortunate to be in the midst of such remarkable and brilliant people. Yet again, I came to the painful recognition that although I was good at finance, the truth was I was unlikely to be great at that either. So I switched to the study of leadership. There, I finally found a path that enabled me to pursue my true calling. So search for your true calling, however painful the path to it might be. Truth is elusive. Truth is painful. Searching for the truth is hard, but so is speaking the truth and hearing the truth. The narrative of every business scandal, think of Enron as a representative case, usually has someone who recognized the truth of what was happening and tried to stop it. Speaking these truths takes courage, entails risks, and can result in frustration because people in power don't always listen. Yet, you must always have the courage to speak the truth. Indeed, as you progress through your career into leadership positions, you must remain keenly aware of how difficult it can be for truths to trickle up in an organization. As a leader, it's your job to try and create a safe and open culture where people feel comfortable delivering bad news up the chain of command and where it's okay to speak truth to power. The second T I ask you to reflect on today is trust. Trust has a deep relationship with truth. It's an emotional bond that develops between people or institutions who have grown accustomed to observing each other act in truthful and appropriate ways. Trust is one of the greatest assets you can possess as an individual or as a business. When I think about the quality of trust, I think about two important lessons I learned from my father. One about personal trust, and one about the trust that exists between business and society. As the CEO of a company in India, my father negotiated hundreds of partnerships and deals over his career. When I would talk to him about his work, he would very often refer to his level of trust in the other party. He might say, "We've signed an airtight contract, but I don't fully trust the person I'm dealing with, so I expect there will still be problems." Or he'd say, "This person's word is good. Even though our contractual terms aren't as favorable as I would have liked, this should work out well." I think of my father's impressions of his partners as a reminder that many of our best professional relationships will be based on an assessment of the trust that you place in others, and that may be far more important than the language of contracts. As you move through your career, you should aspire to build a reputation for being trustworthy. I promise you it will be your best investment, as it will pay rich dividends all your life. When we think of trust, we should not only think about relationships between people, but also between institutions. As we stand here today, nearly 5 years after the great financial crisis, the relationship between business and society is one in which trust still seems to be alarmingly low. There was a time when people saw businesses as engines that helped propel society's prosperity. But today, too many people view business leaders with mistrust. This is one of the great problems of our era, one that I hope your generation will and must address. I find this shift in public attitude towards business particularly upsetting, because a second enduring lesson I learned from my father was the power of business to improve people's lives. My father grew up in a village in India with no electricity. He had to read by candlelights, with no fans or air conditioning, in a house where temperatures routinely reached 110 degrees during the summer. When he became CEO, he ran a company that electrified India. And while he certainly took an interest in its profits and losses, he was driven by the sense that his company was making customers' lives better. After all, he knew what it was like to live without electricity. Billions of people in the world still live without electricity. My father's example gave me the palpable sense that businesses have a unique capacity to make the world a better place, and a sense of purpose that has inspired me to devote my life to educating business leaders. So as you pursue your own goals, I hope you will behave in a way that not only leads to others placing personal trust in you, but that you also act in a way that rebuilds trust between business and society. The world needs more trust in businesses and their leaders, because there is no more powerful force to help solve societal problems and to enable billions of people to live more prosperous lives. Finally, the last T. I would like to urge all of you to reflect on and display thankfulness. Those of us who are gathered here today are enormously blessed. And our good fortune can create the risk of distancing us from people who are less fortunate. This can be a special problem for people in leadership roles. Remaining mindful of our blessings and showing thanks for them is the difference between being experienced as entitled versus being experienced as a true leader. Expressing thankfulness also increases your own happiness. Thankfulness creates a virtuous circle. The more you express it, the more reasons you have to express it. I have experienced this virtuous circle in my own life. I have two daughters who are now 19 and 17. At this age, they no longer let me read them bedtime stories. Indeed, I can scarcely get them to talk to me in full sentences. But for many years, when they were younger, there was a daily ritual I enjoyed very much. Each evening, just before my children went to sleep, I would ask them to say 3 thank yous. The 3 thank yous meant that each child had to name 3 things she was grateful for that day. It was interesting to hear what they would say. Often they'd start with obvious answers. I'm grateful for my dad reading me a book tonight, or I'm grateful for my family. But by the time they got to their 3rd thank you, they'd start straining to think of something. And those 3rd thank yous could be revealing. Which teachers were they thankful for? Which friendships did they truly value? How often did they mention privileges they had that others didn't? When I began doing this exercise with my daughters, I also began doing it for myself. And even though my daughters have now outgrown it, I still do it every night. Just before I go to sleep, I think about 3 specific things I'm grateful for. I feel pretty lucky most days. But even at the end of a very bad day, I'm usually struck by the abundance of choices I have for my 3 thank yous. I promise you, if you incorporate this ritual in your life, you will wake up every day feeling great about your life. Your class has shown a special appreciation for the power of saying thank you. Last spring, you created the first ever Staff Appreciation Day at Harvard Business School. You sent 900 handwritten notes to staff members. You offered them standing ovations. You took them to lunch. You put up banners. I hope you will continue to show this gratitude for the many people who make an organization run, often unsung and unrecognized, but they will help every organization you're a part of throughout your lives be better. On a day like this, it's especially appropriate to express your thankfulness to those who have helped you get here and to make it through the last 2 years. So members of the class of 2014, stand up, turn around, as much as today is a celebration of you and what you've accomplished, none of it would be possible without the strong support you've received from others. The husbands, wives, and partners, the parents, sisters, and brothers, aunts, uncles, cousins, and friends who've nurtured you, encouraged you, and believed in you. Please join me in giving them a big hand of applause. Okay, turn back. The faculty and I join your families in congratulating you on all you have accomplished during your time with us. We celebrate you and we wish you good fortune as you begin your next adventures. Remember, leadership is about competence and character. And as you think about continuing to build your character in the years ahead, I hope you will reflect on how the 3 T's can help in this work. Seek the truth in all that you do. Create and build relationships grounded in trust, and show thankfulness for the many blessings in your life. Be assured that everyone here at Harvard Business School will be rooting for you to become leaders who will make a difference in the world and in the lives of those you touch. As you commence this exciting journey, I wish you Godspeed.